usually your characters are kind of like, they seem very strong in the outside, but then they are kind of very vulnerable or emotional, or it kind of like, the ones that you wrote before. But in Is Cristina, it seems like you started in the opposite way. Like,
Mhm.
these are characters that you see that they are almost crumbling. They it's like the world is not like it used to be, but then they start emerging in a different way. So could you tell us how was that process for you, from characters like Gloria or Una Mujer Fantástica to these characters as Susana and Cristina?
Well, this is my first film as director, so it's the first time I was working by myself without Sebastian Lelio, who's the co-writer and director of the other two films. So in a way, it was I wanted to do a stuff that I really that I was thinking for a long time, and not necessarily Sebastian was interested to work with. So it's like I was thinking, okay, maybe I can do stuff like ideas I'm having. And one of the things I really wanted to explore here was something that for me was funny. That there was like because I'm 40, 44, but there is a generation of women that is in the early 30s that I thought that they were very innocent in a way, or like very like teenagers, like still teenagers, but in their early 30s. So I was thinking there is something funny in being a teenager when you're 30, because it's like you're really lost in your life, you know. So, and then I realized that I wanted to explore the characters, and I thought, okay, maybe if I have this character, this and this the second thought was I wanted to make a story about this woman who wants to be an artist. Like the struggle of when you want to become an artist is always in a struggle. But what if you have your husband is already an artist? You always will be in the second place. And so she's divorcing of it. And then I like the idea. Okay, now you have the chance to be yourself. So you have to take the chance, because maybe it's the only chance you have. So working with these ideas, I remember I actually approached. I wanted the film to be a comedy, so I approached Paloma Salas, who portrayed the other character. But at that time, the character didn't exist, and I want her to help me with the script, because I wanted to have the voice of a woman, like a comedy. She's a stand-up comedian in Chile. She's very like well known, and I thought maybe it's a good idea to bring her to the project. And we have fun. We had a lot of conversations, but at the end, she wasn't interested in writing at all. And then actually, what I was interested after talking with her is like maybe she can be a character in the film. Maybe she can be an actress. And actually, I asked her like, "Are you interested in being an actress?" And then since I was 5, I wanted to be an actor. So it's like I brought her to the project, and then I wrote the story about these two women. And I like the idea of Jing and Yang. Like she's blonde, the other one is brunette. Like dark hair, and the other one is like very like shy and very like very like timid in a way, and the other one is like very frontal. And so I like this idea that most of your best friends are the opposite of you in a way, because friendship is a kind of love. And then I started working the idea of being in love with your friend, in the sense like your friends are it's a love relationship. It's very similar to the one you have with your partners.
Yeah.
So all these things in my head, like I was working on all these things. I wanted to put that all that in the first film, because that's what you do when you do your first film. All these ideas, and there's no necessity to do that. So, but I was working on that, and I think it's funny. It's funny that what I direct the film, I wrote the script, I direct the film, and then when I went to the editing room, and I realized that all these ideas I thought were kind of funny, not all they were funny. Some there was a tragedy inside the film, and and was the working with the editor that she realized that, like, okay, maybe we start taking out things that were funny in the film. Like there is a lot of scenes that I really love, but once I started taking out these comedy scenes, the drama was rising, you know, and I like it. I like that. So there is this mix of drama and comedy, which I like it a lot, and that's what I was trying to do.
Very good. Yes, and well, that was my question. That it's a comedy, but a dramatic one. That's what
Yeah.
yeah.
And the reason for that is like I always like that from even for everything I like is have this mix, you know. It means like, you know, it's like British pop music, like happy songs with soft lyrics, or everything. Like even the best comedies are the ones that make you cry, you know. And I like that. I wanted to explore that because since Sebastian he's not like a comedy director. It's very difficult to write a comedy, you know, in that sense. So I really want to explore that. But then you know, drama finds its way in everything you write. So it's always there.
Very good. Yeah, and I read that you went to boys only school, like, you know, only for boys, and I was wondering if that makes you create these wonderful women characters, and maybe the boys, the men are not so, you know, you are not so kind to them. So I was.
Are you going in a psychological way? No, the thing is like, no, I part of my education when I was in Chile in you know primary school wasn't only boys school, but then I went to a mixed school exactly because of that. I didn't want it to be in an only boys school, and I told my parents that I didn't want that, and I think one of the reasons is because I get bored with men very easily, and I enjoy much more having conversations and enjoying the you know the crazy things women always think. Like they're always making me think that I would never think, and I really enjoy that. So you know, when you're a writer, you're mostly I like a spy. You know, you're spying other people's life, and that's what I've been doing pretty much all my life. Um, so maybe that's the reason, since I'm so fascinated about the way women think, and also not only that, not only because of the sense of humor and the wittiness and the cleverness, you know, it's not only that, it's also that that in a way, it, when you're writing a woman character, there is always conflict because the world is so unfair with women. I mean, they're under a lot of pressure, and it's very unfair. So there is always a struggle inside a woman that I really wanted to explore when I'm writing. Life is so unfair, and it's so easy for men. It's very easy to be a man, actually. So, and there is something that maybe you can change with the people around you, but you know that, I mean, there is no way to change the world like from one day to another. Like you need to, you know, create conscience. And I think that's the things I like about writing about women character, that showing to the world that pretty much it's a very unfair situation for them.
Yeah.
They get less money. They, you know, it's very difficult to, you know, you women know what I'm saying. You know?
Yes, we do. And the other thing is, even in what I find interesting, very interesting in your characters, or in not your characters, in your stories, is that also you put society into that. Like, you know, the kind of like you give us a kind of a sense of a political and social environment of these characters without portraying them or without talking about politics. It seems to that the writing and also in this case the directing, something that you love about a kind of the journalism or I don't know documentary or some kind of something that connects with that reality, because it's very present in, you know, in all the stories that you're reading, but especially in Cristina, that generation that you are talking about, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's something that just comes along when you're writing, and because when I'm writing, my main concern is trying to write something that is universal. That is, I mean, there are Chilean characters, but I don't want that only people in Chile feel that they are cheap, you know, they can connect with these characters. I really like the idea of like any person in the world can connect with the characters. So my main concern all the time is like, okay, how universal is this problem? How can any person in the world can connect with this? And and I and then you can say, okay, that takes a lot of effort, because when you, in order to be political, you really need to address things directly. You really need to say things about what's going on in the contingency, on like in the actuality or whatever, you know. But for me, it was more like, no, I think there is a root, there is a systemic problem that you find, you know, in relationship with women and men, or like poor people or whatever, like or transgenders, you know, in Fantasy Woman. And then maybe if you address your characters and your stories in a universal way, you also are addressing the problems, political problems, in a systemic way, you know, more like not just a very specific problem in Chile, more than like a big problem that everybody is dealing with in the world. So maybe that's the reason. But I'm not thinking really about being political. And actually, in the film, there is a scene in which there is a character, you know, like it's demanding to another character. Like there is a character writing a play, and the professor then in charge say, okay, it's not political enough what you're writing. And it's like, in a way, I'm making fun of the you know, the need to make everything political when you're writing. You know, I think it's not. I used to be a film critic, and I used to be that person. You know, I used to be the person. Okay, this is not political enough, or like it's not addressing anything. It's too superficial, too naive, whatever. You know, too shallow, and it's very unfair, because that you can address political things not directly. So in a way, I was like criticizing myself in the past.
How challenging was for you to direct this, and you know, being by yourself there, being everything, and be the responsible?
At the beginning, it's challenging, because you know what it is. It's like, you know, like Truffaut say, it's like going to the West. You know, um, in the 18th century, like it's a very unknown territory, and you full of dangers, you know. And then very easily, very fast, you realize that it's amazing to be a director, and it's the opposite of writing, because writing is very isolated and stressful and full of anxiety, and directing is, I mean, you can have an anxiety or even like it's challenging. Don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of people helping you. It's not solitary. So I was impressed that, and it's like a party. Like, you know, everybody's there. There is coffee. There is like donuts or whatever, sandwiches, and you're like, and everybody's asking you like, you like it? You don't like it? It's good. And it's like you feel like like an only child, and everybody's like want to be sure that you're having a good time. It's amazing, and then I realized why so many people like to be a director, because the writing is the opposite. Like nobody cares what you're doing. Nobody brings you a coffee or anything. So yeah, it's really nice.
And tell me, there was a moment that maybe the conflict in between that writer and that director exists, like, you know, when you are writing, you imagine the scene this way, but as a director, you do it that, and
I was prepared for that. I mean, I know there is this conflict because you are very idealistic when you're writing, and then you pretend that your writing comes to life in the set, exactly the way you imagine it. But it's not like that at all. And actually, what I learned from Sebastian and all my friends director is like that's the good thing about shooting films. It's like you need to embrace that, not not be against that. You know, it's like it's you need to embrace that some things are not the way you think they will be, because that's the beauty of the scene. There is something magical happening in front of your eyes, and you have a camera, you have to shoot it, because that's when it comes. That's what it brings the actor. That's what it brings that something happened, like maybe a bird was in the background, or whatever. Like all these things that you're not controlling but can be really really good for your story, because that's the pure cinema. And actually I was very prepared for that, I was like trying to find that moment in every scene that I was shooting, because if it was exactly the way I wrote it, I wasn't feeling really good. I wasn't. I'm missing something.
oh, very nice. And in the technical aspects, for example, you took the, I don't know if it's a bridge, but you did it black and white.
Yeah.
You create kind of these scenes and kind of casavities. And, you know, like you can see there is something there that very independent, and you're like,
yeah, it's a very independent film.
Yeah.
I really wanted to embrace the independence of the film.
Yeah.
And the black and white is very useful for that. But it's not only the reason. I think there is so many reasons for making the film in black and white. The first one was like because I love black and white films, and especially modern black and white films. Like when you have the option to make them in color, but you decide to make it black and white, like Wim Wenders, Jim Jarmusch, Peter Bogdanovich, and all these directors. They made black and white, beautiful black and white films that I really, like admire. And that was one reason. And the other reason it was like, okay, it was my first film, and I wanted to, in a way, I mean, this is a crazy idea, but like, if I'm making more films, this will be the prehistorical era of my career, when I was making films in black and white, and then will come the color. So you can say, in a way, you're showing. I mean, if I'm making more film, I don't know if I'm making more film, but if that happens, at least did a one film that was in black and white. And the other reason is, well, and there is a commercial reason, that is it was a very, like, but not commercial in the good sense, in the bad sense, like immediately you're selecting the audience who's watching the film. So it's like not everybody likes black and white films, but I like the people who like black and white films. So immediately you're saying, okay, let's come together and watch this story, because I think we think alike. So I think that's I've been thinking that maybe that were the reason, and it's more beautiful than color. I really enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely. And the scene in at the pool, the swimming pool, is such a beautiful scene. It was conceived in that way when you were imagining writing, or it was something that you kind of explore. It is such a beautiful.
She's pregnant in the film. Mariana Delverian, the actress. I wrote the film for her. So, but it took like 3 years to write the film. So I was writing the film. I was having conversation with her, and she was very impatient, like saying, "Okay, when are we shooting? When are we shooting?" And because she's a very good friend of mine, and at some point she told me, I'm pregnant. And I thought, oh, that's great. Maybe we use that, we can use that you're pregnant. And then I wrote and then that changed the film because now she got pregnant in the middle, you know. But the first thing I decided to do was when she was very pregnant, was shooting her pregnant and swimming in a pool. Because I really wanted to make this break. Like she will be normal and big ellipses, and now she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I did it, because I say, okay, this is a very good way to surprise audiences. And people were asking, okay, how did they do it? Like she got pregnant for the film or what? And so it clearly it's not like it's not a prosthetic or anything. It's not. It's a specific. It's her stomach, and she's swimming, and you can feel like. And I like the idea that she will be suffocated, you know, because being pregnant and being under the water are two ways to be suffocated, which is for me was like a metaphor of being a woman, you know, like like she could not breathe, you know. So all these scenes are about like being suffocated by the situation she was going through.
The movie did well, you know, in the festival circuit. It was something that the pandemic affected film in a way that for you to, I guess, travel and do things and work with the film, you know, like you are a father, you work with your child everywhere that you go, and now it's kind of like.
You mean for me now, living the pandemic?
Yes, in the whole process of, you know, Cristina, Is Cristina until now, the film
is difficult. We are living in difficult times, but I mean, come on, like having a film and showing films is the less of the problems, you know. So I cannot complain. I think it's funny that for some reason that there is always this film it's creates a bond, creates a connection, a very nice connection between me or the film and some specific audiences, like you, or like, you know, there is a programmer in Miami, or it's like programmer in Sweden, or South Korea, and they love the film, and they really like want to share their experience of showing the film to some other people. So I'm very open to that. I think that's exactly what you want to do with a film. Like you cannot I mean, it's never gonna happen that everybody's gonna love you, you know, like not you always. Some people like what things you do, some other people don't like what you do. But I really want is to create a connection with the people who really likes it, you know, who really like enjoy what I was trying to do, because that's the way I exactly connect with the films I like. So in terms of the COVID and what happening in the last months in the world, I think it's in a way it's a very difficult time for everybody connected making films or festivals. But at the same time, I think we are living such extreme times that we are being more selective in the sense of what we want for our lives, what we want for our relationships, and what we want to see in a film. Yeah. So in a way, I think I even if we are living a tragedy, I think when it comes later, it will be more honest for all of us, you know, and I think that's good.
Okay. Where are you working now? Are you writing? Are you planning to direct more?
Yeah. I'm writing. Well, the kind of things that you never discuss in public, just because it's like I'm very superstitious, and if I say something, I know that will never happen. But but yeah, I'm trying to explore something that there is a lot of things I like to explore, but one of the things I really like to do is to keep digging inside this idea that I have been having about changing the world. Like, if you want to change the world, and what do you do? Because you were in the 60s, and the 60s, if you wanted to change the world, like you became like a guerrillero, you know, or you were taking guns and whatever, you know, and or you were like a revolutionary, and then happened, and then passed. That passed, and now we are all capitalists, and we're living this capitalist world. So if you want to change the world, how do you do it now? And because democracy is not, it's not a way. I mean, clearly it looks like a way, but we are witnessing every day that it's not really working. So how do you do it now? So that's what I'm thinking now. Like how that's the theme I'm exploring, and I think it's very connected with what is happening in the world now. So
Okay, very good. What is your favorite filmmaker? You have one?
I have a lot, of course.
Yeah.
I used to be a film critic, so but basically I really love John Cassavetes, and I think and Gina Rowlands, I think, is the most beautiful woman in the world, and she's 19 now, and she's an amazing actress. And really, I think every character I write, I think in Gina Rowlands always, and I think there is this passion, this contention, this energy inside of her that is so beautiful, and I think is so lovable in a sense. Like even if it is a drama, I think you really connect with that, and it's a great inspiration for everything I do. So every time I'm writing, I check opening night or whatever, or a woman under influence, or love streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gonzalo.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to show the film with you guys, because I think it's amazing to create connection with the audiences.